Anyway, ever since the I had a bit of a technical malfunction. Had to go offline. I had to go fix around with my camera, but I know I left off at the history of written versus typed, and yeah. Anyway, when the internet was in its infancy, I assume that the people who the very first talk groups that would have been about TTM would have carried over the old, well, whatever you do, don't type a letter. So I think that what you're seeing is actually a legacy of the old days, I guess you could call it that, of the 70s and the 80s, where there really wasn't any sort of advantage to be gained by typing, except you could pump out the notes faster. Whereas, because your font size was pretty much fixed, unless you, for some reason, really wanted to type up a questionnaire. Back then in the 80s, that was the only real form of that was the only real form of letter where a person might answer a typed letter, or certain people anyway would answer typed letters. But as I said, the players who have been who were typed or were written only they have passed away, and they have mostly been gone since the early 90s, and most of them played in the 19-teens and 1920s. So, with that out of the way, Tony Serra asked me what is going to be my final question of the day, and that is not a question so much, but how would you best explain how signing habits can change? And how can you make a person understand that signing habits can change on a dime? And that, you know, people who don't understand why they didn't get a player back from spring training, but somebody else did. You know, why? Okay, well, how can I best put that into words? Well, signing habits can vary radically. With the newer the ball player, the more radical the variation in signing habits. And you know, I'm looking at SCF as opposed to SCN, and I'm looking at some of the members who are younger, who are sending out between 8 and 12 cards, and I'm looking at them sending to these guys who have quit signing, like Rick Russell and Wade Boggs. And by the way, Wade Boggs actually, apparently he will not sign for $10 per card. Raymond Castillo, who was a member of both Baseball TTM autographs and Guru Baseball autographs, he sent him $40 for cards. Well, apparently he did get his money back, unlike a lot of the people who sent to Wade Boggs, but he also got his cards back unsigned. But anyway, so Russell, Boggs, there was somebody else with the somebody else just stopped. You're really seeing a drop off. You're really seeing a bunch of people who are deciding to absolutely rack somebody, and the result is that person deciding no longer to sign. or imposing a fee, or imposing a limit. So please, don't try and rack somebody. It is, I mean, sure, you might get it, but what about the rest of us? And don't think, well, that I know that ball player. Because I know that ball player. He'll sign 8 because he signs for everybody. Well, how many is he signing for everybody? Do you know if he likes it? Do you know him personally? I know a person who sent Herm Starrett 25 index cards to get signed. Herm was so angry at that, and by the way, he will sign just about anything. He personalized every single one of those 25 index cards, first and last name. I've never seen him on eBay. I'd love to see him. Love to see the person who did that. And by the way, Herm is thinking of charging, so please don't rack him. As far as spring training goes, and also this should extend to Juan Gonzalez, yeah, with regard to spring training and Juan Gonzalez, and for that matter Andrew Jones until today or yesterday, the recent stars are just going to get a ton of mail. If somebody maybe signs 1 out of every 3 or 4 or 5 requests, especially early, and then waits on a couple and just does their mail piecemeal, that's the norm. For example, we saw some 7, 8, 9-day returns from Andrew Jones. Now we're seeing 50-plus day returns from Andrew Jones. For some of us that sent around that same time, we're seeing 40-plus day returns. What he's doing, I think, is he's setting time aside to sign all these cards. But please do not rack the guy, because the more that you rack him, the less chance he returns it. So, keep that in mind. And we never thought that Wade Boggs would stop, would we? Well, Wade Boggs' fee was $10 per card officially, although he'd signed for 5. Of course, you had people sending him $3 and 12 cards. That's ridiculous. Come on. This was going to a children's hospital. So there really wasn't a point to it. There was a reason Wade Boggs stopped. And as far as some of the guys in spring training go, spring training is really hit or miss. Sending to any active ball player is really hit or miss for that matter. Especially if they're in a major league environment. Some decide to save it until next year. Some decide to just answer all their mail at once. Some, I guess a good example of always saving it till next year was Michael Kadire when he was active, and a guy who kind of just does it all at once is Josh Hamilton. But and of course Clayton Kershaw will sign TTM for a donation to his foundation. Same with Max Scherzer. But you have to understand, these guys are still active. These guys are getting the most requests of anybody. Also, I remember earlier in the season, in 2015, in 2016 spring training, there was some people were getting Noah Syndergaard back, some people were getting Carson Fulmer back, some people weren't.